Here are 51 different gift ideas that you can get a laser or ILCA sailor. Now, these are all things that I've bought myself. I've used them. I've found them to be very useful. In some cases, I've bought them multiple times. So I want to share with you all these items. They range from kind of more high-ticket items to little stocking stuffers. What I did was I just kind of went through my Amazon orders for the past 4 years and found the best items. And I thought I'd share these 51 different items with you. So they're broken up into 6 different categories. We got gear items, like sailing gear items that you put on your boat, repair items, how do you repair your boat, types of clothing you can get on Amazon for laser, ILCA sailing, fitness items, since fitness is an integral part of sailing the laser, travel items when you go to regattas, and then a couple last logistic items that I find myself using regularly. So let's dive in. Now, one thing with a laser, to sail the boat downwind, you got to know where the wind is coming from. And I've tried a lot of different wind indicators. I found that the Hawk wind indicator is the best one. And you'll see a lot of the top sailors using them. What I like about it are a couple things. First of all, this little piece here. So the Achilles heel of any kind of wind indicator is that these things break. They're light enough to move around with the wind, they break. So this thing is light enough and small enough you can just take it off and put it in your life jacket when you're done sailing, and then it stays nice and protected. The other ones don't come off easily or aren't sensitive enough. The other thing I like is this little tab here makes it easy to pull off with cold hands, especially if you're wearing gloves. So that's really nice. Just mounts around your mast. So really good stuff. All right, next item is a timer. When you're racing, you gotta know what time it is to the start. And what I do is actually have 2 of these guys, one for starboard tack, one on port tack. And what I do is I mount them on the same little band. And by doing that, I always know exactly how much time I have left at the start. And it's absolutely crucial because sometimes you have to, if you're not a racer, you know that you need to time things down to the second. Sometimes some conditions you might sheet in at 8 seconds to the start. Sometimes it might be 5 seconds to the start. So you need to have a nice big timer mounts on the mast. So as you're on your final approach, you can look at the mast, see the timer, and see the other end, the pin end of the starting line right there, and judge the time and distance really effectively. So this is good. You'll see here, I returned this. The reason is that it got wet, had to return it. And what you do is you always don't store it in your cockpit, store it up on the bow so it dries out quicker. Next thing is, this is a great ratchet block. It's a Harkin 57 millimeter. It holds really tight, really well, and the thing is it holds really tight, and by doing that, I have more energy and I can basically spend more of my time adjusting the sheet as opposed to just holding it in there. But it is all these little grooves here that you see essentially make it so that it really tears through the main sheet pretty quickly. So a great thing to pair with that is a Rooster main sheet. And so I've purchased many of these over the years. I find that this main sheet, you'll see again, a lot of the top sailors, if you zoom into their photos, you'll see this bright yellow main sheet on their boat. And one of the things is that probably get about, with the ratchet block I just showed you, probably about 5 to 7 days on it. So you just swap it around so that way the wear point is different. You don't want to wear it all the way through. And then you just trim a little bit, trim off like 6 inches because the wear point is going to be about 6 inches long. So swap it, and then when you get the wear point, trim a little bit off, and then use it another 6 or 7 days, flip it around, and so on and so forth. And I find by doing that, I can do probably about 3 or 4 trims, and do the math, you get about 35 days out of it, and that's pretty much, for a lot of us, 1 year's worth of sailing, and by then it's the holidays once again, and you can go ahead and get another main sheet. Right, so these Ronstand blocks, I didn't buy these on Amazon, but I use them in my Vang and my Cunningham, 2 in the boom Vang for the secondary, and 3 in the Cunningham, and they're nice, they're very durable, they're low friction because the blocks are really big. They do a lot to minimize the friction. They're really nice and highly durable here at the top, and they have this rounded bit, helps them minimize friction when they're the top block in your Cunningham assembly. Just really good stuff, really good stuff. The outhaul, I use Ronstan as well. Again, I bought them not on Amazon, but somewhere else. And the outhaul, you don't adjust as much, and when you do adjust, it tends to be like downwind just before the leeward mark, so you don't need to make them as big to reduce friction. They can be smaller, lighter, and so I've got 3 of these in my outhaul assembly. So really good stuff. Now, all these blocks require rope, and this 2mm Dyneema rope is UHMWPE. If you look that up, it's another name for Dyneema. Really good stuff, and for $20 you get a lot of it. And so I use this as the primary for my Vang, my outhaul, my Cunningham. I've used it in really windy conditions, and the stuff's held up like a champ. It's also small enough that you can weave it through the little hole here in the Ronstan block, and you can also weave it through the hole right here as well. So really good bit of rope, and I'll also use it for my hiking strap line. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good uses. Now, that's 2mm. There's also a 1mm, and this I'll use as for the retainer line for my compass to make sure it doesn't fall off. I'll also sometimes use it as a retaining line for my water bottles, and that's pretty much, I think, all I use as a retaining line for. But anyway, good general purpose. Oh, and I'll also use it for my rudder downhaul as well. You don't need a lot of strength, and 1mm rope is just fine there. So, all right, moving on. Now we're getting to the repair section, and probably the best thing for repairs is a Leatherman type tool, but I like SOG, S-O-G, this brand, better than Leatherman. And the reason I like it is they have this gearing system in here. So I think if memory serves, it's 3-to-1. So for every 1 pound of pressure you put on the tool, you get 3 pounds of pressure on the grip part, on the plier part. And that's really nice if you're trying to pick out knot from the really thin Dyneema rope we just looked at. It's super helpful there. And it's got a knife, and it's got a filer, and it's got a bunch of other good stuff. So super helpful to have in your toolbox. Small enough to even carry it on your life jacket if you feel like your boat might be in need of repairs mid-sail. Definitely a good thing to have on a keel boat too. And then another great thing I use it for is on my dolly, basically to rig up a little sort of double-ended bit of shock cord, stick it through, attach to one handle of my dolly, put it through the bow eye, and then connect it to the other handle. And by doing that, it keeps the bow fastened to the top of the dolly, and keeps it from popping out, and keeps the boat from slipping off the dolly when you're hauling it up. All right, what's next? Ring dings, always good to have. If you buy these, you'll probably be set for the next 10, 20, 30 years. The Laser or ILCA doesn't have that many of them, but it has a few of them. So it's good to make sure that those are in good shape. And also if you sail other classes, other types of boats, always good to have in your toolbox. And stocking stuffer. Cassette tape. This might seem kind of random, but this is kind of a weapon. So on my sails, I like to have a combination of telltales. I like to have the standard wool telltales that come with the sail, but then I also like to have the cassette tape telltales. And the reason I have the cassette tape telltales is that they're more responsive than the wool. When you're steering too high or too low, they'll respond quicker than the wool. And so you can stay in the groove, optimally trimmed for a much longer period of time than if you just have wool telltales. So why do you have wool telltales at all? The stock wool telltales work better when it's cold, not cold, when it's wet conditions. So after a capsize or a lot of spray or rain or mist, the cassette tape telltales will tend to stick to the sail quicker, whereas the wool will not stick as much, right? So it's good to have a combination, cassette tape telltales when it's dry, wool when it's wet. And then this is another thing that's really nice. I like to mark different settings. So on the Laser or ILCA, I'll put different tape marks for the settings for my outhaul, and then also for the Cunningham as well, and then also on the Vang. And so it's nice because I won't go into the details of how to set that up, but it's generally pretty handy to have that so you can replicate fast settings. Usually what I'll do, just one sort of little trick I use is black is base, is kind of how I remember that. And so black is kind of your base setting. So on your outhaul, that'll be when you have 6 inches of camber on your sail, measured from the outhaul cleat to the edge of the sail. That's 6 inches. That's kind of your light air setting. On the boom vang, I'll mark black as my 2-block tension setting on the vang, which is again kind of your standard light air setting. And then for the Cunningham, I'll mark black as to when you have just enough Cunningham on to kind of get the main wrinkles out. Again, the light air setting. So black is base. And then from there, I find it really handy to kind of go in rainbow order. So green, blue, yellow, and red for the next setting. So red is the max, being the max setting. And I find it really helpful just to, I don't have to say like, oh, am I on setting 3 or 4? It's like, oh, I'm on blue, I'm on yellow. It's just when you're in the heat of battle, tight mark rounding, it just makes it that much easier to just replicate and lock in the correct setting. And then the nice thing about this thin tape is that it's more accurate than a wider band that you might have. So you can, again, be more precise. Hence, okay, another stocking stuffer, but pencils. This might seem random, but I was on a webinar not long ago with a guy named Dave Dellenbaugh, who's a great coach, great tactician, America's Cup level. And one of the things he said was write down the headings, write down your wind headings that you capture in the pre-start. And that's great. A grease pencil is greasy and wipes off and is a mess. The little golf pencils, the lead will tend to break. So these are nice fat pencils for preschoolers. And as a result, they don't break, so you can put them in your wetsuit. I actually like to tuck them into the bottom bit of my wetsuit by the ankle. I found that to be a really good spot. It's surprisingly out of the way, and I can just kind of reach down there, pull it out, and when I'm tuning up in the pre-start, just write down the numbers that I'm seeing. So in the pre-start, ideally, you get a bunch of numbers for your compass headings on starboard, compass headings on port, and then when the start happens, you know whether you are headed or lifted. And it's a great way, in oscillating wind conditions, to gain a lot of distance on your competition. And it starts with a silly little pencil here that is handy and reliable. So, and it comes with an eraser too, which is nice. You can keep that in your life jacket and erase the day's headings when you're done with sailing. All right, duct tape. Sailors always need duct tape. I really like having the white duct tape because if I have a rip in my sail, I can just put the white tape on there and it doesn't look so as bad as if I have silver tape. And it just kind of looks nice. If you wrap it around the gooseneck too to keep your Cunningham from getting pulled into the gooseneck, the white tape looks a little nicer. So just a style choice, but a good thing to have. If you have a compass on your boat, you're going to want to be able to mount it with this really sort of industrial grade Velcro, and that's what this stuff is here. And then oftentimes if you charter a boat at a regatta, you'll have, I should have had my compass with me, but anyway, you'll have some of this stuff on your compass, but you need to stick the stuff on your charter boat. So it's good to take this stuff with you to a regatta, and it's strong enough where it does, you don't lose it. Always use that other thin 1mm rope I showed you earlier to tie the compass off to somewhere. So if it does get knocked off, you don't lose a expensive piece of gear. If you spend enough time in the boat practicing lasers, you will get nicks in your board. Bondo is great to fix that. This stuff, the nice thing about this is you don't need to mix it. It just comes in a tube. So I just have this down at the boat park, and whenever I get a little nick, I can just apply it, dry everything off thoroughly, apply this. The next time I go down to sail, take some sandpaper, it sands down really easily, and you're good to go. So super convenient, great way to make sure your boards stay in great shape. You're also going to want to make sure that from time to time you might get a leak in your boat, right? You want to rebed certain fittings, and I find the silicone sealant to be great. And so yeah, this is what I use, and it works just great. So, and then also sometimes if you have hiking boots, you might find the hiking boots are starting to wear out in different places. I find shoe goo is a great way to repair the hiking boots and get more use out of them. Sometimes my wetsuits in the arms, I might start to get little seams pulling out as I'm sort of leaning down on the deck, pressing down on the deck on the downwind. So I find the shoe goo is nice to kind of where the stitching is getting loose, just put some shoe goo on there. So that's really handy. So good to have if you have foul weather gear that has gotten repaired, that has gotten torn, you need to repair it. Shoe goo works great for that as well. Now, speaking of repairs, one thing, again, this is like if you spend enough time in the boat and practicing, as you should, oftentimes the eye straps in your boom that hold your main sheet blocks will start to get loose. And so what I'll do is I'll just proactively just lash those eye straps to the boom. So put in 10 lashes on the front bit, cross over, do 10 on the back, make sure it's tied super tight the whole way through. The nice thing about the nylon is you can stretch it and pull it tight in every single lash. So that'll save you just a repair job. Or so it's happened with a relatively new Ovington boom that I got in 2021, and I started having to do lots of re-riveting. And finally, I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna lash it, and it's been fine ever since. So great stocking stuffer. But some stuff you might find will get loose in your laser. Some of the fittings like the gooseneck, the boom vang attachments. And so for those, it's really good to have a pop rivet gun. And that's what this is. Now, a lot of times you see people with these sort of handheld little dinky pop rivet guns, and those are so hard to use. So you have to have like King Kong gorilla grip strength to put those things in. This thing is like made for humans to be able to replace pop rivets. So this thing is a great tool to have, and it's the kind of thing when I'm at a regatta and someone's like, "Oh, Al, I got to do a repair. Can I borrow your tool?" Like, sure. Not many people have it, and it's definitely a good find to have. All right, now we're on to clothing, and you might say, "Okay, this is kind of a generic baseball cap. What's the deal?" Well, there's a couple good things about it. One is it does not have this little thing at the top. And I know it sounds weird, but when you have a low boom on a laser, and when I've worn a trucker's cap and it has a little thing at the top, the little button, that thing will get like so many times like hit, and then yeah, it's a pain. So this is nice and smooth. The other nice thing about it, it's nice and stiff. So there's plenty of baseball caps out there. But what I really like to do is I like to pair it with this bump cap. And this thing is awesome. So it's a piece of plastic. It'll fit into the cap we just saw. And if the boom hits you, you're relatively well protected. If you blindly get hit in the head on a heavier job, no, this is not going to protect you like a helmet. But the problem with the helmet is it's so high profile that's hard to get under the boom. So this is a nice happy medium. And I first got this because I was doing a race down in the Columbia River Gorge, which is windy, but also in some places pretty shifty. And I rolled into a jibe, and I kind of went through everything, and I was like, wait, the boom hasn't come across. And I sort of popped my head up, and thankfully, the boom just went over the top of my head, and I was like, oof, I dodged a bullet there. So at that point, a buddy of mine showed me this bump cap, and I've been wearing it ever since. And the great thing is good protection. It's also really good when you're in a laser. A lot of times we'll shoot up and go head to wind, and you're leaning in close to center line. The boom's close to center line. The boom can whack you on the head, right? And so you want to minimize that kind of pounding. We see all the crazy stuff that happens to football players later. You don't want that happening as a sailor. And so the nice thing about this is that, especially when you do these sort of pre-start shoot-ups and your head's really close to the boom, this will provide you with a measure of protection. And it's perfect for that kind of like wobbling around, so you're not going to get injured by a little tap. All right, sun protection. You want a mineral-based sunscreen. You know, when you get to be about my age, so many people start getting skin cancer. You're lifelong sailors. We call it salami mode because the doctors have to start cutting the cancerous stuff off of you. And I don't want that happening to me, or I want to put that off as long as possible. Mineral-based sunscreen is great. The Harkin stuff lasts incredibly long. It's amazing. In the Olympic trials a couple of years ago, and we had this insane day where it was like 35 knots of wind, thunderstorms, and there's a picture of me coming in, and I still have the Harkin stuff still on my face. So it doesn't wear out. It's really good. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper than getting skin cancer too. The other thing to protect yourself against skin cancer is wearing a buff. And Buff, there is a brand called Buff, B-U-F. I like, it's a fishing brand, and this stuff is this nice one, covers your ears. You can wear it up to your chin. You can even cover your mouth. I think once I was even sailing. So where was this? Sailing in Italy. We were doing Worlds in Italy, and there was this disgusting tide line. I pulled the thing up over my nose because I do not want to get sick before. This is a practice like the day before Worlds. I do not want to ruin my regatta with some nasty stuff in the water. So anyway, wear this thing all the time. It's great. It fits under the neck of your wetsuit or your rash guard, tight fitting. So really good stuff. And then also in eye protection. So there's a lot of talk about sunglasses and lenses. And I've gone through. What's the brand? Canon's great brand. But the problem is the glasses are really expensive, and I've broken a bunch of them, and it's always really stressful. And I would much rather just go to a regatta with 3 pairs, 4 pairs of sunglasses. I can have one in my blade bag, one in my duffel bag, one in my backpack, one in my suitcase. And I just don't have to stress. If something gets broken, no problem. If I forget it, it's already got a spare one in my bag. So, and you can do that. These are cheap enough where you can do that, and it's fine. You can read the wind shifts on the water. They're good quality. I like I like having inexpensive stuff. You're not going to stress about it if it breaks. You can have redundant pairs. Have one on the coach boat, for instance. But you want to make sure you don't lose them. So I like the chums. And the neat thing about the chums, these are basically you put them over, you put that across your head. But the cool thing is you can cow hitch this through the back of the back of the hat that I showed you earlier. So that way, if your hat flies off, it'll still be attached to the back of your chums. If your glasses come off, they'll stay on because you've retained them. So it's a nice way to keep your hat and your glasses all together. Also, sun protection. This Quicksilver works really well because it's white. Usually, if you're wearing just a rash guard, it's usually hot conditions. You want to shed the heat. So this is nice for keeping the heat off. And so you'll notice we've got a white rash guard and white huck face protection. So really good stuff. And if you get a white jogging cap, that's good too. Although with the plastic bump cap, no sun is getting through the plastic. So it's got SPF of 1,000,000. So again, and really good if you've got as much hair as I do. All right, where were we? Okay. Another thing is if you're racing a laser, you cannot have a radio on board unless it's allowed in the sailing instructions. There's like one regatta I know of where they're allowed in the sailing instructions, but most of the time you cannot have it. However, if you're practicing, really good idea to have a radio with you. The thing I like about this guy is it's small enough to stick in my life jacket and then have it preset to channel 16, which is the Coast Guard. And if you get into trouble, if one of your buddies gets in trouble, you've got a pretty quick lifeline. And this is going to be much more reliable than a cell phone or an Apple Watch or what have you, because you don't have to worry about cellular coverage or anything like that. And the Coast Guard and others monitor channel 16, so you get a direct line. You push that button, you're talking directly to the Coast Guard. You can't get any quicker. Also good for safety and a good stocking stuffer territory is this whistle. If you get into trouble, your mast breaks, your boat, I don't know, you forget your stern plug and your boat is sinking, who knows? You want to be able to whistle, attract the attention of a passing boat. This is good. The best whistle is the one that you carry with you. The nice thing about this is it's really small. Like it's small enough where we had Worlds in Italy. It was a really light air venue. This thing was small enough. I just carried it with me. I didn't stress about the extra couple ounces that it was. So good thing to have on board. Always carry it with you. Gloves. There's a lot of like really expensive sailing gloves out there. All you need are these flippin' gardening gloves. And the nice thing is a 12-pack. So this will probably last me about 2 or 3 seasons. It's really grippy. It's full fingered. If you really want to have the finger cut off for your index finger, you can. Anyway, this is really good stuff. And if I get in the 12-pack, this thing will last probably, I don't know, 10 days, 15 days. Because it's 12-pack, you can swap in a new pair when you need to. But here's a secret weapon for you. It's called goat tape. I'll wear this in addition to gloves. And a lot of times at the end of a regatta, people will have their hands all chewed up. And this stuff is amazing. In the Worlds in Italy, we just had them 11 days straight of sailing, no problem. My hands were fine. The previous year, we had heavy air world championships in Adelaide, Australia. That was probably about 10 days of sailing. And then 3 or 4 days off, and then Olympic trials for 8 more days of sailing. And it was a lot of sailing. And hands were fine. So wrap this around your pinky, ring finger, and middle finger. Probably will work. Probably don't need to do your index finger. I always find that most of the load is on these 3 fingers, both hands, and probably wrap it twice around each one of those fingers, and then gloves over that, and you're good to go. So if you're not injured, you can trim the sail more aggressively. That translates to more speed. Watch. So yes, it's great to have a timer. I once slipped from 2nd to 3rd in a national championship because we had one person keeping time and that person screwed up, and the rest of us weren't keeping time and didn't have watches. And so the nice thing about this watch is it gives you your countdown. It's all you need. You don't need a Rolex. You don't need anything fancy. You just need a watch that tell the regular time of day. The reason regular time of day is helpful is because you might want to know, first of all, is the race committee starting at a certain time? Like they're starting at noon. Okay, how soon are we to noon? Do we have time to do one more upwind leg to check the wind shifts or not? That's one. Number two, if you're in a tidal area like San Francisco Bay, you might say like, oh, at 1 p.m. we can expect the current to shift on the course. Oh, so I'm going upwind. I'm looking at my watch time of day. Like, oh, that's super helpful. And then in the pre-start, you can get the countdown, just belt suspenders and whatever else to. If 3 clocks going, fine. If you want redundancy, you got it. The nice thing about this, again, is that if this thing rips off, no stress, right? If you're doing, I know this is a thing about lasers and ILCAs, but if you're doing bow, and let's say you're responsible for calling out time, if you're a bow person, really easy for your watch to get lost. If this one, $23, no sweat. In fact, I'll even have a couple of these in my gear bag when I do keelboat sailing. So it's like I can have my timer, I can hand it out to somebody, hey, just let's have a couple of us keep time, and it's all good. So we get our timing right. Wetsuit vests. So this is kind of one of the few bits of sailing like wetsuit stuff you can get on Amazon. San Francisco Bay often gets really windy, and I like to be not shy at all about layering on the neoprenes. I have a Rooster 43 millimeter cold weather top. When it's really cold, I'll have 2 wetsuit vests like this on top. So that's 3 millimeter plus 3 millimeter plus 4 millimeter. I'm rocking 7 millimeters. It's great. It's blowing 25. It's 50 degrees of temperature Fahrenheit, which might be, I don't know, 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. Cold, windy, and everything, and it's all good, and everything's nice and compact. These run on the small side. Usually my shirts are like a size large. I found that an extra large was what I had to get here. So, and get them large because you're usually wearing them on top of a wetsuit too. So that adds an extra layer. Again, this is a laser / ILCA thing, but I find these Keen sandals to be really helpful for keelboats. They have a protected toe. Let's see if we can show you the view there. There we go. So that front protected toe is really great, so you don't stub your toe. But if you're in warm weather sailing, these are nice. Things stay nice and aired out. If your feet get wet, they dry quickly, and they have a nice grip that you can see here too. You can't quite see them, but basically it's kind of like the Sperry topsetter grip. And Keen is designed by a guy named Steve Keen, who's a pretty competitive sailor. So they're basically made by sailors. Okay, now let's talk about fitness and fitness-y, nutrition-y type stuff. So got to make sure you stay hydrated on the water. Got to have a water bottle that's not going to get, destroyed, stepped on, or anything like that. And so I love these Nalgene's. If you camp, anyone who does camping realizes that Nalgene's are just super durable. I mean, I've once was hiking with a Nalgene in my hand, slipped, fell. The Nalgene took all my weight and didn't break. It's pretty amazing. So what I'll do is I'll my usual routine, I'll buy 4 of these. And so my usual routine, because they're only sold in a 2-pack. What I'll do is I'll fill one of these up with water and electrolytes, drink one before I go sailing. And this is drink one before I go sailing, hit the bathroom, have another one on the boat using that shock cord I showed earlier attached to the sort of between the hiking strap and the traveler cleat. You kind of rig up some shock cord like that and stick the water bottle back there. And then I'll have a third water bottle, which will have some recovery mix that I'll use to drink afterwards to restore electrolytes and all that good stuff. So, but it's good to have 4 of them. So for instance, when I was in Italy, Formia, super hot, and we rigging up in this hot massive parking lot. So I'd go through like 2 of these things beforehand. I'd bring 2 of these out on the coach boat and pretty much go through them. And it was pretty insane the amount of water we were drinking, but always stayed hydrated. So that was a good thing. Always use electrolyte mix. You don't want to start getting the condition where you overhydrate yourself. So, yeah. Okay. Another thing is grip strength matters a lot in laser. We're always holding our main sheet. You don't want to have cleats on your main sheet, or you don't want to have deck cleats for your main sheet in your boat. That's just bad all the way around. It gets in the way when you're sailing downwind. But you got to have good grip strength. So what I do is actually when I'm working from home, I've got this exact same model, and I'll just be when I'm on mute, I'll just be cranking away, and it's good stuff. This is the medium tension. I got this after I had carpal tunnel surgery on this hand, so as part of the physical therapy process. And then you eventually, if you're up for it, you can work up to this is the what's the extra heavy tension. So pretty tough stuff, and again, do this multitask nicely on a work call. All right. Another thing is a wobble board. So actually, this is the home office. I actually have a standing desk. And the great thing about a wobble board, I'm actually on it right now. And what it is it's basically, it just helps you with your balance, it helps strengthen your core, your legs. So it's a way that, and I've worked my way up to, so I'll be on this thing for 10 hours a day if I need to. And it's just a really great way to passively improve your strength as you're going through your workday, or if you're a student, your studies, what have you. So really good stuff. And then knee pads. As laser sailors, we put our knees through hell. And so oftentimes I'll be on the wobble board, and I've got my knee pads right here, which you can see. And so, yeah, just, great stuff. I mean, even if I go through a hard regatta, do these guys probably, maybe 2, 3, 4 days, and things are back and restored. So it really found to be very helpful. All right, almost there. Now we're on to travel. When you travel, what you'll typically do when you get a charter boat is, what you get in your charter is, for those of you who haven't already done this, you'll rent out or charter the hull, the spars, the blades. You'll bring your tiller extension, and your sail. And then, of course, all your own, personal gear, your rigging, your Kineham, your main sheet, your ratchet block, your wetsuit, all that stuff. So what works well is to have a golf bag. Now, why do you have a golf bag? Because you can basically fit, this is just long enough for your tiller and tiller extension to fit inside. And I did a video showing how I packed for the Worlds in Italy this year, and definitely check that out if you want some ideas. The nice thing about it being a golf bag is that the airlines they'll allow you to bring on sports equipment for certain sports. Golf is one of those sports. Sailing is not one of those sports. So by using a golf bag, you're not going to get charged some funky fee, or the airline's not going to kind of tie themselves in knots saying, whoa, what is this? Do we support sailing gear? It's like, no, it's golf. Boom. Great. And this is nice. It's, it's a lot less expensive. Actually, this is a great deal. Black Friday. Wow. I think I definitely paid more for that. So it's big. It's, pretty durable. There's a few brands out there, but I found this one pretty durable. So yeah, good stuff. And it's just big enough to bring, when you pack it fully, it'll just be under the weight limit of 50 pounds when I forget what that is in kilograms. But anyway, so just enough for a U.S. airline. But the thing is, it is possible to go over that limit. And so you want to, as you're doing your packing, you kind of want to think, okay, what's the critical stuff I have to have? Okay, I got to have my life jacket. I got to have my hiking pants. But then there might be some things where it's like, well, I can kind of do without it, or maybe I can buy it there. Like, I don't know, electrolyte powder. Maybe you can, buy it there, go to a sporting goods store, right? So what this allows you to do is, as you're packing and as you're kind of filling things up, you can go ahead and weigh and see, okay, how close are you to 50 pounds? And then bring it to the airport. So if, let's say, the airline's scale is screwed up, you can go ahead and you can say, well, basically beg for forgiveness. You can say, look, I have it on my scale. It's showing it's 49.5 pounds, and yours is showing it's, 53 pounds. I'm really sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing here. And, hopefully you can get in. So good way to stay under the limit. And also, if there is a discrepancy, to just slide through. Air tags. Why do you have them? Why is that in a sailing post? Well, the reason is that when you travel, right, you want to put one of these into your golf bag that I just showed you. You'll probably have a suitcase for your street clothes, put it into there. You'll probably have a backpack for your laptop, put it in there. I'll also attach it in my life jacket. So if, let's say that there's a big regatta, hundreds of sailors, you can just, share the air tag's location with your your family, your friends, and they can find you easily in a big regatta venue. So I put in my life jacket. I have it on my trailer. So if, again, big regatta, if your trailer gets moved out to who knows where, you can track down your trailer. I don't yet have it on my dolly, but I will. So yeah, it's just AirTag all your, as much, well, not everything, but as much, all the big things, let's say, and all your luggage. And of course, you want to make sure that your batteries are replaced for your AirTags. So there you go. And this is really nice compression bags, so you can basically use them to make sure that everything fits into your suitcase, and you can pack as much stuff as you can. And headlamp. So a lot of times you'll find yourself having to unrig your boat at night. Maybe you might be trailering your boat, after, like, on a Friday night going to regatta venue, or early Saturday, and you got to make sure that you got to tie your boat on, you got to check your tire pressure, you got to hook up your trailer, like all those things. Really helpful if you have a good headlamp. And the nice thing, this thing is like, freakishly bright. So great stuff. It also charges through USB-C, so you can just, recharge it, with the same way you charge your computer or phone. A trailer lock. You don't want someone walking off with your trailer at a big regatta site, so this is a nice way to make sure that your trailer is always locked up. And then also, this is a nice way to, you want to basically take the trailer hitch out. Well, certainly want to do it, when you're not trailering, so no one jams their shin on it. Also, not a bad idea to do it when you're when you're at a regatta, just, so it doesn't go missing. And the nice thing about this is it has this fast pin that's really secure, and so it doesn't come out. So I really like this. And then this guy here is when you are trailering, oftentimes you want to put your spars on the deck of your boat. And when you do that, you want to have some padding between the spars, your mast boom, and the deck. If you don't do that, you run the risk of stuff wearing into your deck, and that's not fun to repair. I've had to do it. And so get a couple of these. I think, yeah, I've bought 2 of these. I'll put one of these over the traveler cleat and one of them just in front of the outhaul Cunningham cleat. And then, so the spars are up and your deck is protected. Okay, now we're getting into some kind of more logistical stuff, but when you're done sailing, you wash out your wetsuit and all your gear. If you're between races, you want it to dry quickly. And so this is a huge fan. You can put it in your bathroom and run this baby, and it'll dry stuff really quickly. And then last but not least, item number 51 is mesh laundry bags. So they're various sizes, and I'll put my hiking pants in here. I'll put my boots in here, or one bag for the hiking pants, one bag for each of the 2 different boots. I'll put one bag for the wetsuit vest, the wetsuit top, the hat. I will not put my life jacket in the washing machine. Will not put the bump cap in there. Obviously, no electronics. But the nice thing about this is you kind of put all your anything with Velcro, or anything that's neoprene, or anything that is a little bit delicate, could be hurt. Put it in there, run the wash machine, all comes out nice and clean, cleaner than if you just kind of hosed it off or whatever. And so get enough of them for all your gear. But yeah, this is great stuff, and it just you don't end up smelling like all skanky after you've worn your stuff 10 or 20 times. So there you have it, 51 items for laser sailors and ILCA sailors. Links to all these items are in the notes. So go ahead, and hopefully this helps you shop better for the holidays or any time of year. And let me know what you think. If there's stuff that you would add to this list, let me know. Love to hear from you. Thanks.